Taking adequate amounts of water is instrumental in many necessary physiological processes for looking and feeling your best. Water helps prevent disease, flushes out fats and toxins, and can help you feel full while not intaking any calories. We're going to talk about this today and more in episode 5 of Girl Got Goals, talking about water in our Optimizing Overall Health series with my lovely co-host, IFBB Bikini Pro, Kimberly Blaylock.
Hello.
Hi. How's your week been going so far?
Pretty good. Glad it's over. Enjoying my off day. How about you?
Same. But then we start the week tomorrow.
True. We got
Monday's
today to
never enough.
regenerate. No.
That's right. All right. So today our topic is water. So we're going to talk about why water is important, what counts as water, how much water you should drink in a day, all the good facts about water, because like we had talked about in previous episodes, I didn't understand how important water was until a health class I took in college as an adult. And that's when I really started drinking any amount of water. So according to the U.S. National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, men need approximately 15.5 cups or 124 ounces of water per day, and women need 11.5 cups or 92 ounces of water per day on average. And like we'll discuss later, that's really going to be dependent on a lot of different factors, and it's not a one size fits all approach.
I've been excited about this series.
Yeah, I think water is something that's really underestimated
Mm-hmm.
and how important it really is. And it's just kind of taken for granted. And we don't really understand its importance enough in optimizing overall health and just everyday life processes.
Yeah. I don't think I really ever did. And when we hit some of these points today, for me, it's like, well, why not? Why not at least, if you're not somebody that drinks water, start with 1 or 2 a day? Because I'm always the type that if somebody tells me something as far as like something that's going to help with my beauty or makeup or, just small things, what's it going to hurt to just start adding it a little at a time if that's going to help optimize something? And it's just water. It's not like I'm asking you to eat something nasty or do something out of the ordinary. It's an easy, I feel like easy thing to put into our daily routine.
Exactly. It's highly accessible. It's easy to obtain, in America anyway. And we have water everywhere. And so why not?
Exactly.
And so speaking of water, when we talk about water, we're really talking about like a fluid intake. And that can be from many different beverages, many different foods, and then just plain water. Because you have beverages such as milk and tea and juice all contain water, even though they're not 100% just water. And a lot of fruits and vegetables have a very high water content. So you are pulling water out of your foods that you eat, as well as the fluids that you intake. So you can keep that in mind. And when we talk about how much water is necessary per day, that's going to be fluid intake in ounces. And just remember, if it contains sugar or caffeine, you cannot safely count it as water because caffeine is a diuretic. And so it's going to help your body excrete water, not intake it and maintain it. And so also supplements like creatine or certain medications can cause you to need more water or can cause you to excrete more water. So that's
So
why
when
we
I
talk
mix water with my pre-workout, since that's caffeine, you're saying I can't count that water.
I would not count that water. I would not count it as my fluid intake.
I'm just
I mean, it
messing.
has water in it, but
Shucks.
I know, right? We all know how you love your pre-workout,
I
but you drink
mean,
plenty of
it's
water.
oh yes, yes. I'm just messing because when you said that, I was like, I don't never really count it anyway, but um,
Right. And that's just what
it's
I've always
my
been taught.
yeah. And pre-workout for me, y'all, is like coffee. I mean, I don't drink coffee, so and I've told y'all I don't drink Cokes, so it's the only caffeine that I have during the day. So I'll drink it in the morning when I'm getting going, and that's like I feel like equivalent to somebody getting up and drinking a cup of coffee. Sometimes I will drink another one before I go to the gym. So, and some people use coffee as a pre-workout. So
Right.
that's my two caffeines for the day.
Yeah. And I mean, some experts say that you can count things such as like pre workouts and coffees because they do have a water content. But I've always just been taught it's safe to just not count anything with sugar or caffeine as your water intake because those things are
Yeah.
going to kind of work counterproductive to what we're trying to achieve in a fluid
And
daily intake.
I agree. And here's my aspect on a lot of things. Sometimes, like if I'm questioning that, don't count it because if there's any question at all, the best thing to do is don't, and then you know you're safe.
Right. We're talking maybe 12 ounces. It's not going to make or break, anything.
Yeah, yeah. I
When in
use
doubt,
well,
count it out. It's my
write that
catchphrase for
down.
the day.
Write that down, everybody. That's
It's my little nugget of wisdom.
all right. So go ahead. I
Yeah.
interrupted you. Number two.
No, that's fine. So we're talking about it's not a one size fits all approach. It's going to be dependent on many factors such as your health, the environment and where you live, your gender, your weight. Some people can just drink when they're thirsty, and that's going to dictate like kind of an intuitive fluid intake. It's going to be fine. You may need more water if you're active and you sweat a lot because we lose water when we sweat. If you live in the dirty South like we do in the humid environments, or if you live in high altitudes, you're going to need more water. Or if you live in a very, very dry climate, if you're sick with a fever, or vomiting, diarrhea, your body's excreting a lot of extra water, you're going to need to intake more water. Or, of course, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, those are all factors that you need to really take into consideration when you're trying to figure out what your daily intake should be. Because your body's made up of like 50 to 70% water. That is a lot of water. And we lose
Mm-hmm.
water just by breathing, activity, sweating, environments, and so we're constantly losing water due to our environment every day. So we need to definitely think about putting that water back into our bodies, and maintaining that 50 to 70% is a lot.
Yeah. Well, because dehydration can trigger headaches and migraines. And I think you spoke about that, a little bit last week. So you need to think about that sometimes. I know that sometimes my husband has headaches a lot. And I've told him, you need to start drinking water because he's bad about drinking Monsters. And he thinks that's the only thing there is to drink. So hopefully when he listens to this, he will heed to some of these because I do believe that triggers some of his, headaches and some of the issues that he's having. So, um,
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of other diseases and biological processes that can be negatively impacted by not having enough water.
oh, definitely. So, they will even say that staying hydrated overall, helps with longevity and health in our aging. Um, it can lead to higher sodium concentration in the blood, which is raises the risk of chronic diseases. And the studies suggest that people who drink water are less likely to develop these chronic diseases like heart and lung disease. That's crazy. I never really, thought about that before, that just by drinking water, we can help with some of these things. Um,
Yeah,
it
like we
also
said before,
says,
why not?
yeah,
Simple water intake can reduce your risks for cancer and,
mm-hmm.
other.
Well, I was talking about my husband, he takes cholesterol medicine and has been having a problem with his cholesterol. It even says that drinking water can lower your cholesterol. It can help reduce the risk of chronic kidney disease because we need to flush out, our kidneys and keep those from building up. So by flushing them out, you're keeping the buildup down, which also helps with kidney stones. He has kidney stones. So, I mean, here's a whole slew of things that him just adding water could help with lots of the things that he's having problems with right now. Even will help to protect your spinal cord if you're in a traumatic injury because we need water in our body. So we have any, trauma like that, the water helps, with things like that. And heavens forbid that we have things like that happen. But who wants to know that if we did have a problem that we were just dehydrated?
Yeah, that makes sense because, water lubricates joints and it helps to protect cartilage and facilitate smooth movement. But so it makes a lot of sense that even your brain shrinks when you're dehydrated and there's less fluid around the brain and the spinal cord. And if there are jarring movements, it could be way more traumatic if you're dehydrated.
Yeah. So
And going back
there's
to the
several
kidney,
reasons.
yeah, going back to
Yeah.
you're talking about kidney function, water helps dilute toxins and waste in the body. And the kidneys really rely on water to filter and excrete the waste products from the blood through the urine. And the liver picks
Mm-hmm.
up toxins from the bloodstream and converts them into water soluble substances that can be excreted through the urine. Sweat contains toxins and waste products that are eliminated from the body. So, if you don't have adequate amounts of water going in to flush the kidneys, to flush the liver, to sweat, and remove these toxins, then it just makes sense that that would build up in your body. And we all know that you don't want to keep that kind of contamination in your cells or in your muscles or in your organs because that will cause probably debilitating diseases, and it can be prevented in large part just simply by drinking water.
Yeah. And who knew it was that simple sometimes? Um,
Right.
and then staying hydrated is also necessary, not just for your overall health. Not only does it play an important role in, your digestion and your circulation, like you were talking about, but it's vital to your skin. Now, this is my favorite. I mean, more than any other beauty regimen that you can do, the cheapest thing that you could start with is drinking water. I mean, everybody's always like, well, what can I do for my skin? What can I do for this? What's something inexpensive? We're always looking for something inexpensive. What's cheaper than water? Because your skin is an organ. So if you look at it like it's the largest organ in your body and it needs water, you have to feed that organ just like anything else. We had nutrition last week and we talked about what we need to do, for that. Well, for your skin, you need water and it needs that to function.
Absolutely, because we all know that water acts as a carrier of things and it carries nutrients and oxygen to all of your cells, and that includes your skin, and it removes waste from these cells. So it's taking in the good things and it's bringing out the bad, and it's simply just water.
Yeah. Well, I wrote down just a few highlights of how water can help your skin because some people might be thinking, how does that work? So, if you don't know, one, it can help with fewer wrinkles. So, the more you stay hydrated, the fewer wrinkles and fine lines. Water helps your skin maintain its moisture, which increases your elasticity. So the more elastic your skin, the fewer wrinkles you'll see. It helps improve your complexion. So drinking plenty of water can help combat a variety of skin issues like psoriasis, which my dad has. My daughter has eczema. So, drinking more water will help people with, skin diseases like that. It helps by it's in the digestion. So like you talked about, is flushing out all those toxins, and those are like diseases and toxins of the skin. So you're flushing all of that out, and in return, you're going to have healthier looking skin. It can reduce puffiness. So you know how sometimes people say, "Oh, I feel bloated. I'm just swollen." Well, that's because you're retaining water. And you always hear people say, "Oh, I'm just retaining water right now." But why are you retaining water? You're retaining water because you're dehydrated. And it's your body's way of protecting us. Our body is so complex, and I can't even imagine how the Lord come up with all of this. I mean, it's like a machine, And if you're going to oil something on a machine and take care of a machine, that's the way we have to take care of our bodies. So it's just your body's way of protecting us. So the more water you drink, it's going to reduce that puffiness and swelling, and it will clear acne. So I was surprised to see that 40 to 55% of adults in the population from 20 to 40 have adult acne. It says it's a common skin issue, and drinking water can help. It slows aging. So beyond wrinkles, drinking water can help your skin be plumper, which lowers the aging process.
Speaking about aging, real quick,
yeah,
I know that many people, as you age, you develop blood pressure problems. And talk about water, ensuring adequate amounts of water intake can regulate blood volume. So that helps regulate blood pressure and circulation. And that can improve your skin. Getting the increased blood circulation to the organs in the skin definitely can help with that as well.
Yeah. And then one of the other things, lastly, was smaller pores. So your pores, as you were talking about, when if you don't sweat and you're not drinking enough water to sweat, our pores can get clogged and enlarged throughout the day. So the more water you drink, the better balance of the oil and water on the surface of your skin, which will reduce your pores and help decrease the acne breakouts. So lots of things there to think about with, drinking water just to help our skin and to detox our body.
Yeah, I mean, even if you didn't care about all the health benefits or aspects, maybe if you're younger and you haven't just reached that part to where you're thinking about those things yet, just all the benefits that you just mentioned of increased skin and beauty is enough to probably prompt somebody to think about their water intake. I mean, aside from all the physiological processes, we have those aesthetics that I know we as women all care about. We all want to look better, more youthful and glowing, and
yeah.
Like I was telling you, funny story, sidebar. I was watching Selling Sunset the other morning while I was doing my cardio, and I was like, all of these women look like supermodels. They look like they could step on a runway at any moment. Their skin is flawless, and their makeup's on fleek, and their hair's amazing, and their fashion. And I was like, their dudes are like mediocre at best. As women, we have such high beauty standards these days that we're trying to meet. We can't help but compare ourselves to what we see in commercials and social media. And it's always been that, men or society desires and puts on a pedestal youth and beauty. And we as women, I think, try to hold on to that as long as possible. Who wouldn't? Human nature, and something as simple as keeping yourself hydrated can do so much more for you, maybe, than a beauty cream that you're spending money on at Walmart or online or at your dermatologist or whatever. Not saying that you don't need those things as well, because the older you get, you do obviously have to maintain that. But I mean, if you don't have a foundation of adequate hydration, everything else you're attempting to do on top of that, as far as aesthetics and beauty standards, is going to be compromised, because you're not laying that good foundation of just making sure that you have adequate hydration.
Well, I would say we talked about this before about how your skin gets dry and you put on lotion. And I've been that way in the past, where you put on the lotion and it's like that almost don't even help. So no different than what you're talking about. If we're not taking care of the inside, because that's how it works, from the inside out, if we're not keeping our skin hydrated, it's not going to use that, cream that we're putting on there properly. So no different than if you're going somewhere to get creams for your face and get this done and this done. If you're not doing what you need on the inside to help those creams work, well, then you've wasted your money. I mean, no different than when we go and get the lasers, and want to take care of the sun damage and this, and then you're not properly using sunscreen when we go out. Well, what's the purpose? Unless you just like spending money and want to keep going and getting it done and not, doing things to take care of the money you've spent. But, that's another thing, is not using the water to help the other things that we're going to be putting on our face. You're spinning your wheels.
Yeah, and I love what you said earlier about same way you would oil a machine to keep it running. I mean, that's just common knowledge as far as preventative maintenance is oiling a machine. You need to essentially oil your body with water. You have to continue to provide that preventative maintenance, or it just completely undermines anything else you're trying to accomplish. And that's why we're doing this Optimizing Overall Health series. We're starting at the simple basics, just assuming someone who doesn't know anything about health and nutrition, just laying those simple basic foundations, I think, are often overlooked in today's society, where it's a very commercialism driven society, and they're trying to sell us the creams. I mean, I love TikTok. I find it very humorous, and I love watching it. I've learned so much there. But the TikTok shop, I have every third video is somebody trying to sell me something. And so I think often we get inundated with commercialism and somebody trying to sell us a cream or a beauty product or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they don't talk enough about what you can do for free and what is essential, and things like adequate nutrition and hydration.
Yeah. I mean, how far we can go on our own with our beauty and taking care of our bodies if we do the things that, we're trying to discuss with people, your nutrition, just drinking water, and exercise. I mean, those are the keys before you even start investing in things. If you're not doing those things, it's, like they say, putting makeup on a pig.
I was just thinking lipstick on a pig. Exactly. Our brains were synced up. You can't put lipstick on a pig and call it a supermodel. Just.
Yeah. And, just to add on to what you were saying, that is one of the things that we do want to, not just if you don't know, but there's so many simple things that we can do there. And like you're saying, there's so much stuff commercialized that sometimes we don't even know where to start. And I feel like the things that we're talking about now are just simple, so you can not be so overwhelmed, because it's like, well, do I take this creatine? Do I take this pre-workout? Do I take these BCAAs? Do I do this? Do I do that? And I got to work out. It's thrown so much. And then I'll go one step further, and then we can get back to our water. But don't be fooled sometimes by the pink labels or the pretty labels. I feel like if they add pink to it and say women, we buy it, and they charge you more. They literally will charge more, and it's the same as the ugly package over here that the men are picking up. because they just hone in on us women because we think, oh, I got to have this, I got to have that, because it is so commercialized, and we do have so much pressure on us as women to look a certain way that we think if they slap this pink wrapper on it and say for women that we need to get it, and most of the time they're charging you at least $10 more than this package over here that's not so pretty, and it's the exact same thing.
Right. It's a double standard. We're held to a much higher standard of just being presentable in everyday life than a male. We have hair to think about. We have makeup. We have anti-aging. We have fashion. And we all know that the men have no hair to worry about. They're probably using a bar of soap on their face, no skincare routine to worry about. They have 5 pairs of pants and 5 shirts that they're mix matching every day. Like, they set up these almost impossible beauty standards to, I guess, basically be able to commercialize and capitalize on things such as that, women's beauty products, and we fall prey to it all the time because we all want to feel young, healthy, and beautiful. And
well, they're getting rich off our insecurities.
Exactly. And we all have them, and we all try to placate to them. So we're all going to buy the things. And like you said, the generic, read the ingredients. I love watching Nina Poole on TikTok. Have you watched her at all?
I haven't.
Okay. So she is an autistic lady, and one of her superpowers of autism is pattern recognition. So she takes like a super cool product that's maybe more expensive that everybody's hyping up, and she'll read the ingredients and break them down, and then she will like scour different products and research to find like a dupe. She's like the queen of dupes. And so she'll find where like a $80 face cream, you can get it like $10 from Walmart, and have basically the same ingredients for the same effect. And so I love that you brought that up, that just because it says for women or just because it's pretty packaging doesn't mean that you necessarily need that product. And we got on a rabbit trail. Point was, if you're not drinking your water, none of that shit's going to matter anyway. So.
Correct. A lot said to say that, but I think those things were important too. People needed to know.
Exactly. Yeah. Because, I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here for women, period. And impossible beauty standards do make us have to look at things a little bit differently. And we do want to look at those things. We do want to use those tools and resources. God knows I do. Love me some Botox, when I can afford it. But if I'm not drinking my water, none of it's going to matter anyway. And so that brings us to a great point, is how do I know if I'm drinking enough water? I said in the beginning that a typical woman probably needs about 92 ounces a day. I usually shoot for just like 1 gallon, which is what, 120 ounces, I think. Don't quote me on that, but maybe.
That's right.
Okay. And so I just shoot for around 120, because I do drink caffeine. I am excreting some extra. I do sweat, yada, yada. But to know if you're drinking enough water every day is maybe if you rarely feel thirsty. If you find yourself thirsty all the time, that's probably a really good indicator that you're not drinking enough water. And if you're just on your water journey and you're just beginning to drink water, you're probably not going to be as thirsty, oddly enough, as when you start drinking water. There's like a period, I don't know if you experienced it, Kimberly, when you started, but there was like a period where I felt like I wasn't thirsty and I didn't want to drink water, but it's just because I had not been drinking enough water. And once my body got used to getting the adequate amounts of water, girl, I'm thirsty all the time. Like I find myself, like you said last time, craving water, because now my body is getting enough water. It's used to having adequate amounts of hydration. My biological processes are functioning properly, and I need that amount of water every day, and my body knows that I need it now. But there was a time when I didn't necessarily have that biological urge to drink water. So I had to just start doing it because I knew it was the right thing to do, basically.
Right. Yeah. I think it's like anything else. I tell people whenever you're going to start a diet, don't use that word. We talked about that. Make it a lifestyle. And so you got to make this a lifestyle. If you're not used to water, like how I didn't like it, which I jumped off in it because, I always got to make things harder and just cold turkeyed. But for the most people, that's not the best way to do it, and they can't do it because if you're used to Cokes, you're gonna have headaches when you cut out that caffeine. Sometimes you are going to get the headache, so you can't just usually cold turkey. You're going to have that one or two Cokes, just like smoking. You got to gradually come off of that nicotine. Well, you got to come off of that caffeine and just throw in, okay, I'm going to start with drinking 2 bottles of water a day and, see if you can do that for a week. And then when you start doing that, then make it 3 bottles. That would be my suggestion, and just kind of get yourself and your body used to it. And then it becomes more of a habit. Then your body starts wanting it more. Then the Cokes don't start tasting the same. You don't want that sweetness so much. That would be how I would suggest doing it. I don't know.
And even if you're gonna drink Cokes, or sodas, I still drink diet soda on occasion, but I don't count it as my water intake. If you're gonna drink sodas, definitely get your 92 to 120 ounces per day in addition to whatever carbonated beverages that you're drinking, because I definitely wouldn't count them as water for sure.
Correct.
Because they are caffeinated and they are carbonated. But yeah, that's a great point. Just start adding in good habits, not necessarily depriving yourself or taking anything away. I'm a big advocate for starting something fresh, healthy, and new that's going to inspire and motivate you instead of feeling like you're sacrificing something, and then that's going to make that a negative experience for you. And I mean, with Stanley's and hydro jugs and all these really cute cups out there nowadays, they're approximately like 40 ounces typically on size. And they're almost like a fun thing to have, a fun thing to collect, a fashion statement, and it makes it really easy, and it's very socially acceptable to carry your jug around all day, and just add that, treat yourself to a cute, fun cup with little charms on it and straw toppers and whatever. Dress it up with your outfit, make it the season, whatever you need to do to add that and make it a fun habit. And then if you drink just 3 of these 40-ounce cups per day, you're adding that into your life. You're not taking anything else away. Then you're reaching your hydration goals super simply.
Yeah. Great point. And then, me, overachiever, I just have to add, I'll make things a game sometimes. So, if you have your Stanley Cup and you need to drink 3 of those, try to make one of them by noon. I need to drink this whole thing by noon. Sometimes that will push you if you put a time limit on it. If you're just like carrying it around, oh, I got to drink this today, but put a time limit on, I have to drink this by noon. And then when you refill it up, I have to drink this by the time I get off work. And then I have to drink my 3rd one before I go to bed. Sometimes I feel like if we put that time frame on it, it makes it fun.
Achievable, yeah.
More, yeah. Or at least a goal to go to. Everybody
Yeah.
might not be like me. I mean, if you put a time in the GPS and it says that I'm going to get there at 4:02, well, I'm going to see if I can make that change to 4. Everything's a game with me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a super, super helpful tip. And they even have water jugs that you can order on Amazon. I think they come in half gallon or gallon sizes, so depending on your goal. And they have the lines on them with the times
Mhm.
set. And so they break it up into small time increments. So if you are someone who has trouble pushing yourself to drink water, that is a great helpful tool. Just something simple you can do. And not that you'll need to carry around that jug and do that forever, because once you make it a habit, it'll just be easy. But I love that tip
Mhm.
because I have used that, especially getting ready for a show. Sometimes we do a water loading phase where we're drinking 2 or 3 times the amount of water that we typically drink in a day. And I would have to be like, okay, I'm drinking this jug of water by 10 a.m. and I'm drinking this jug of water by 1 p.m. Because if I didn't, there was no way I was going to chug a gallon and a half of water before bedtime. Which brings up another great point.
Mhm.
Try to get all your water in early, especially, if you're like me and you've had 3 kids and you usually wake up at least once in the middle of the night to pee anyway. If you're getting your water in past 7 p.m., it's going to mess with your sleep because you're going to probably get up more than once to pee in the middle of the night, and that's never fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we're getting off here, but hilarious little side note for me, the way that when I was doing a show, when I had a coach that water loaded me, and Carrie always thought this was weird, but I'm like, I got to do what works for me. And I found what worked for me is so that I can make sure I was getting the gallons in, because there were times he'd want me to drink, like there was one show he was like pulling, because I carry a lot of water and I carry a lot in my lower half, which some women do and some carry more than others, and I carried mine in my lower half a lot. So we needed to get all that water off so my glutes would come in and my tie-ins would come in. So there was one show in particular that I had 3 gallons a day. That's a lot.
It's a lot of water.
So I would have Carrie buy the gallon jugs so that I didn't have to add it up. And, I'm very precise. I didn't want to be like over, under, So if I bought 3 gallon jugs, and then I would take and pour them into a regular bottled water and drink that, and then pour it. And he was like, why don't you just count the waters? I said, no, because then this is more obtainable to have, like, if I just got this small amount in front of me, I just know, okay, I just got to drink this one. If I'm drinking out of the jug, as I see some people do at the gym, then it just looks like a lot. It like overwhelmed me. So if I had the smaller bottle in front of me, but then yet during the day when I'm pouring it in there, I see how much I've drank out of that jug. It was like, it just made me feel warm. It made me feel like I was doing something, but it wasn't overwhelming. So I know that sounds crazy, but for me, that was the way that I overcame doing that, and just seeing the small and not all big at one time.
Yeah, and everybody's different. You definitely have to trial and error, try something new, do what works for you. Because for me, filling up those little bottles is super tedious. I would rather, like you said, I'd buy the jugs because then I don't have to measure it, which is one less thing I have to think about. And I would just rather drink out of the large jug and not have to take that. I'm super like efficient, if I have to take a few minutes or seconds and fill up that little water bottle, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? So everybody's going to have different ways that they're going to find works best for them. It's not a one size fits all approach. Nobody can tell you how to live your life, and you just do it the best you can. And another little tip is in getting your water is to drink water with each meal. Drink water between meals. Drink water before, during, and after exercise. This is going to be like an all day long process. I know sometimes I have a job where I'm on a computer, I'm at a desk, and so I'm not really physically active. So I'm not, getting really thirsty. And I'm super hyper focused on very detailed things. And so time kind of escapes me. And if I don't have that water jug sitting right there in my vision, right beside me, where I can just easily grab it, I'm not going to think about it. And I'm going to go large chunks of time without drinking. And so it's going to put me behind on my water intake. And another thing is drinking out of a straw has been proven to help you drink more than just drinking out of a bottle or a cup or a glass. For some reason, when you drink out of a straw, you typically drink more than you do otherwise. So if you're somebody that struggles with adequate amounts of hydration, you will need to make sure that that water is always in your line of sight, because if it's out of sight, out of mind, and maybe think about getting you a cup with a straw to help.
Yeah. Well, going off for you talking about drinking, with your meal, that goes along with what we said before, that water has no calories. And our overall health, we talked about nutrition last week. We're talking about, this whole thing, and a lot of it is some losing weight and eating less and eating the correct things. And if we are drinking more water, then a lot of times we're eating less, because it will keep you full, and water has no calories. So if we're drinking more water, then we're eating less. That's a win-win.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not going to want to eat as much.
Yeah. And also sometimes your body can mix up the signals. I know we talked about this in our overview episode, that sometimes you will feel, in quote, hungry, but really you're thirsty. Your body's dehydrated. It's needing something, but your wires are getting crossed. So if you just drink 8 ounces of water, 12 ounces of water, then you're going to feel full. You're going to feel satisfied, and your body may then have what it needs to squelch those hunger signals, so it can help you if you're in a fat loss phase, or if you're trying to control your calories. It could really, really help you do that, because water is no calories. Like you said, you're not intaking any amounts of extra energy. It's just neutral.
And I have to throw this in there, we talked about the makeup and the saving money, with the water. So let's move that into a different direction of also doing something that's going to save us money, that the saliva helps us digest our food and keeps our mouth, nose, our eyes moist, and all that prevents friction and damage. So all of that's another thing that I didn't bring up earlier, but it keeps our mouth clean. So when we drink water, it keeps your mouth clean, and it keeps you from consuming, we want to take away as many sweeteners as possible. So if we're not drinking the sweetener drinks, what are we doing? We're not causing tooth decay, because we're keeping our mouth clean. My dentist loves me.
That brings up two good points, and I'm going to go ahead and say them so I don't forget, because I have ADHD and I will forget. Point number one, if you drink sodas, you will get cavities. I have a story about that. And point number two, water pH levels. Remind me about that, because my dentist taught me about that. So point number one, we talked about I didn't start drinking water until I was an adult in college, already married, 2 kids. I drank sodas and sweet teas before that. And I never really got taken to the dentist as a child. You're supposed to go for your cleaning every 6 months, whatever. I think I was taken once when I was like 5 or 6. I remember that cleaning. And then I didn't go again until I had severe cavities when I was like 17, and I had to have something taken care of. So then as an adult, I started, managing my dental health on my own. I managed it better. But I still, every time I went every 6 months for my cleaning, I would have small cavities. I would have like 3 or 4 cavities every time, until I gave up the sodas. I only drank diet sodas after that, but rarely. I mostly drank water, no sweet teas. And now I go every cleaning, no cavities, period. So, and we all know dental work is very expensive, not to mention you don't want to have it. It's
Correct.
stressful, it's expensive, decay in your mouth is nasty. Like you don't want to have to deal with that. So if you are someone who is drinking sodas, sweet teas, etc., then and you're having any kind of gum issues, infections, decay, dental problems, drinking water could significantly reduce your risk for all of those issues. Not to say you're not ever going to have any cavities, because some things you eat, like gummies and stuff like that. And I know this is not about oral health, but drinking water can drastically increase your oral health. I'm living proof of that. And number two, my wonderful dentist, Dr. Shane Welch at Coastal Dental Arts, taught me about the pH levels of water. So your different brands of waters all have different pH levels. Brands such as Dasani and Aquafina are really acidic, and they can be as acidic as a soda and decaying the enamel on your teeth, slowly eroding that enamel due to the acidic nature. Whereas brands such as like Deer Park and like the natural spring waters are less acidic and more neutral and do not help erode that enamel on your teeth. So I thought water was water. I never liked the taste of Aquafina and Dasani. I know they're super popular brands and they're expensive, but for me, they always. I'm a very, very, very sensitive person. I can taste different water qualities. I say I'm a water snob. And during quarantine, when COVID was happening, we had a lot of time on our hands, and my husband swore up and down I could not taste the differences in water flavors. And I swore to him I could, so we did like a triple blind study, and I proved to him that I can taste the difference in water. And if you drink it out of a plastic cup or if you drink it out of like a metal cup, I can taste the difference. So anyway, said all that to say this. To me, spring water has the best clear natural flavor anyway. And a lot of times those brands of spring water you can get are sometimes cheaper than the name brands.
True.
But and the name brands, it could be more expensive. And I'm sure you can Google it. He gave me a printout that day when I was getting my cleaning, when he was teaching me about the acid levels in water. He gave me a printout that had like the most acidic to the least acidic and the different popular brands and like a visual. And I'm sure if you Google it, you can, find out for yourself and see if the brand that you're drinking is good for your teeth or not. Or you could, ask Dr. Welch. If you want to contact his office. No, don't do that. Can't have 100 people calling Shane and overwhelm his office staff. But
Well, I'll bring up, I have heard this before. I don't know if you have heard it, and I'm not sure if anybody else has heard it. The difference in drinking room temperature water and cold water. So I had always heard, and so I looked it up, and there was a study done in 2003. I had always heard that if you drink cold water, that you burn more calories because it's cold and your body is having to try to bring that temperature down in your body. So there was a study in 2003 that says that people that drank water, cold water, ice water, experienced a 30% increase in metabolism. That if you drank a half a liter a day, that amounted to burning 100 calories. Oh, that's interesting.
So you're saying that drinking cold water helps you burn calories?
That is what the study proclaimed. Now, if you read on and look on, then of course they're going to come back and say, but regardless of any temperature, it'll ramp up your metabolism. So I just wanted to throw that nugget in there, be what it may.
Right. We're not scientists. We can't prove anything.
Yeah.
We're just giving you the
what I
information.
heard. Yeah, I had always heard it. And so I was like, let me see what people say about this. And I did find that they had that study in 2003. But I kind of sort of lean to seeing where that would be true a little bit. But, some people don't like cold water. Now, my daughter could drink room temperature water. And when I first started drinking water, I was like, that is disgusting. I could only drink it if it was cold. I didn't like room temperature. Now, I can drink it regardless. The only way I can't is if it's been sitting in a hot car. I can't do that. Now, she can. I'm like, oh, that's disgusting. But room temperature don't bother me as bad as it used to. When I first started drinking water, if it wasn't cold, I was putting it back if it had sat out a few minutes and getting one cold and starting all over. Now, if it sits out, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It really depends on how thirsty I am. Like if I'm just, like I said, sitting at my desk, working, drinking, I need cold, clear, crisp water. If I'm working out and I'm super thirsty and my water bottle's been sitting in my gym bag a little bit, it's not quite cold anymore, that's not going to bother me because I'm really thirsty. Which reminds me of a great point. You talk about heat stress. Water is super important for regulating your body's temperature. And by sweating, that's how our bodies kind of cool ourselves off. And when you're drinking water while you're maybe outside doing yard work, or if you're working out and you're getting super hot, especially for us down in the South in summer, if you take in cold water, it's not as effective at helping your body handle heat stress because it is having to heat that water, I think, to be able to utilize it. I've always heard that if you drink more of like a room temperature water, it's already closer to your body temperature. So if you're in a heat stress situation, you may not want to use the colder water. You may want to use something that's more tepid in room temperature. That's a little nugget I didn't think about till you mentioned that. We're just full of random facts. Like, between the two of us, we have all this random knowledge.
Maybe we should have just named it random knowledge about water.
That's what we're going to name the episode. Randomness. Oh, and one last way you can tell that you drink enough water. That reminds me, when I talked about heat stress, I worked at a steel mill for about 10 years. And every restroom you went into in the steel mill had a urine hydration chart that had colors of the urine on it, because you can visibly see if you're hydrated or not simply by the color of your urine. So if your urine is colorless, or like a very, very light pale yellow and it's odorless, then you're hydrated. Once it starts getting into the darker yellows, or if it has some kind of odor, you're getting dangerously close or are at that dehydration level. And once you've reached like a certain level of dehydration, it's super hard to bounce back from that. And when you're dealing with... I was just going to say, when you're dealing with high temperature environments or dangerous environments, then, or if you're older or using certain medications, then you may want to like keep an eye on it. I know it seems kind of gross to like look at your pee, I mean, it could be the matter of life and death, but it's a really cheap, easy, good indicator,
Yeah. Well, I don't see how people's not. I mean, let's face it. You see it. So don't act like you don't see it.
You look at your pee.
Yeah. Or can smell it. I mean, like you said, if I take my vitamins in the morning, or I do have some that I mix with my pre-workout, like and we'll get into that in the supplement thing, but I use collagen and different things that I'll mix with that. And that's another reason why I drink that in the morning, is because I'll mix different things in it and helps me, just one and done. I put vitamin C in there. But I started using these new vitamins after this past show, and I wasn't really thinking, and I started going to the bathroom, and I'd be like, what is wrong? I know that I haven't been the best here lately with my water, but I'm drinking my water. Why is, my pee-pee so yellow and I can smell it? And I was going through this like, what is going on? Because I'm used to mine being almost clear and no, smell. And then it just dawned on me one day, and I was like, you're taking those new vitamins you bought. But because I was putting them in powder form, I wasn't thinking about it. It's
Right.
not like I was, now I have recently bought some that I'm, vitamin formed also with the powder. But at that time, I had not implemented that in. And it took me probably about a week before it dawned on me that you're taking a new vitamin.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I meant to bring that up as well, is that certain vitamins are water soluble. And so your body will use whatever it can intake, and then it will excrete through the urine, whatever it doesn't. So there has been vitamins I've taken before that has made my pee almost like neon green. I mean, it was like weird colors, and you could smell it. You could smell that vitamin smell. And so that's
Mhm.
not of any concern if you're taking any kind of supplement that could possibly make your pee like a different color.
But
And
I
it,
will
and it
say
gets
that
to
the
like,
more
like
you,
after 1 or 2 days you pee. So yeah.
right. If it's not going away, by that afternoon, if it's still, then something's, because it shouldn't linger that long. That was going to be the point I brought up. Yeah. So, then if it's lingering that, okay, I need to drink some more water because you're not flushing everything out.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. On the normal everyday basis, except for when after you take your vitamins, it should go back to that pale, odorless, unless you're eating asparagus. I mean, you do something like asparagus, and it's still going to be colorless, but it's not going to be odorless.
Well, I would not know because I do not like asparagus.
You don't? It's not my favorite. I can eat it certain ways, cooked with certain seasonings and such, but it's not my go-to for sure. And I almost avoid it for that reason, because I don't like to smell it when I pee. That's like disgusting. Have you never eaten asparagus?
Yes and no. So on my first prep, because I want you to eat a green vegetable, so I could do broccoli or asparagus was his go-to. And so he had put asparagus on there. And me, I told you, I'll try anything. I'll, what you tell me to do. And that is the only time that I ever messaged him and was like, I can't. I've done it all. I've tried every which way. I have grilled it. I have steamed it. I have bought the kind you put in the microwave. It was just, I'm sorry. I just
kind of acquired unique taste. Yeah. Some people love it.
Yeah. Well, there was all kinds of people telling me, well, wrap it in bacon. I'm like, dude, I can't wrap it in bacon. I'm on a diet,
That's the whole purpose of eating the asparagus in the first place.
Yeah. So same with broccoli. I'm not a broccoli person. I can go to Ruby Tuesdays. For some reason, I've had it there before, and they're steamed as I can tolerate it, but not a lot of it. But there again, I've had people say, well, put butter on it, put cheese on it. I'm like, that defeats the purpose, and surely when I'm on a diet for that, I can't. So my go-to just became spinach, using it instead of lettuce in a salad. So
yeah. And spinach has a very high water content. So by default, you're kind of getting a little bit extra water there.
Correct.
Well, I think that wraps up our series. Yeah. I think we've talked about everything. We've talked about looking and feeling your best self. We've talked about disease prevention. We've talked about feeling full with no calories. All the different biological processes that function correctly with water. And so I don't think there's anything we left out, but if there is, we'd love for you to reach out to us, ask any questions you may have. If there's a topic about water or hydration levels that we didn't cover, feel free to reach out. We're here to spew our random knowledge in any direction we can. We're full of useless facts. No, they're not useless. They may be to some people, but we feel as if water is super important. That's why it was number 2 in our Optimizing Overall Health series. We covered nutrition first because that's super important. Water, I would say, is just as important, but you have to do one at a time. And so next week, I think, what are we covering? Exercise? Is that next? I think exercise is next. Yeah.
Yes.
So join us next week. We would love it if you could rate our podcast, like and subscribe, share on social media, share with your friends if there's any loved one in your life or friend that you know needs a little bit of help in reaching their goals for nutrition or water intake, then we'd love for you to share our random knowledge with the world. But until then, we hope you guys have a good week, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.